So this week she'll perform as many reps as possible in 45 seconds, then rest for 10 seconds. So you can see the difference here is in both the duration that she's working for and the recovery period. So she's now working 45 seconds, so an increase of 5 seconds, and then resting for 10 seconds, so a decrease in recovery time by 5 seconds. This increase will occur in order to push her and ensure her body adapts to the increase in the demand of exercise, and the decrease in recovery time will mean she's more fatigued, so her body will adapt to try and compensate for that fatigue and prevent that fatigue from having an impact on her, which will then lead to long-term adaptations as well. So after she completed all 4 moves, she will rest for 1 minute before she repeats the circuit. So that's still the same, and she'll still complete 4 circuits in total. The session includes lunge jumps, burpees, step-ups, and jumping jacks. Again, I've changed the activities here this week, as you can see, to make sure, again, that she doesn't become bored of it and that it isn't tedious. There's something new for her to experience, and it's something that she hasn't expected. Because of the requirement to perform as many reps as possible, again, she'll be working at 80 to 90% of her maximum heart rate. So the cool down this week is the same again. So that line of cones, and she'll jog through and back first, then she'll jog through and backwards jog as she returns, then she'll sidestep, change direction at each cone, then lunging at each cone, then open the gate at each cone, then close the gate at each cone, then lunge and twist at each cone and jog back. Again, that targets the areas that will be used in the session, such as the quadriceps, hamstrings, latissimus dorsi, ensuring that the muscles have returned to their original length, meaning they don't seize up or stiffen quickly, and they return to their original elasticity at a rate where it's not going to cause injury. So the main thing in this week that changed is that there is the addition of a squash session on a Friday. So this will be with a friend, preferably, and it won't be observed by me. It will just be something that will be between the client and their friend. This ensures that there is enjoyment and relief of stress through socialising. So the client, I'd like them to just simply play games of squash against their friend, no matter how many, but I'd like it to last at least 30 minutes, with obviously an option to play longer if the client is enjoying themselves. They can spend as much time as they'd like there, but I'd like them to spend at least 30 minutes, otherwise I feel they wouldn't be receiving benefits from it. I'd also like the client to aim to raise their heart rate to 65 to a maximum of 75%, to replicate the working anaerobically and improving their aerobic endurance and using aerobic glycolysis so that it's consistent with the rest of the training and exercise I've asked them to do throughout the programme. The client said they enjoyed squash a lot when they were younger, and it's a sport they enjoy, so I wanted to incorporate this in the training plan, and I felt this was the right time to introduce it. I also want to get her enjoying sport and wanting to continue it, so I feel like introducing a sport that she's enjoyed before would encourage her to continue after this programme. In addition to this, it'll also relieve stress of work. She says she's stressed a lot because of work, and competing in squash is something she enjoys, so the exercise is not only releasing serotonin and relieving stress, but also the social aspects and enjoyment of being with her friend will also relieve the stress of work. Finally, on this last week, most of the changes are in terms of intensity. So again, there'll be no changes in regards to the walk to work or cycle to work, simply a change in the course and the route that she takes, increasing the distance, meaning she's walking for longer or cycling for longer. The changes to the continuous training will be a further increase in intensity and equipment. So they'll go back to working on an exercise bike this week. I prefer the exercise bike personally, and from what it sounds like, she used to cycle sometimes occasionally, so I feel like she would enjoy this the most as well. Again, though, this change in equipment is to prevent tedium, meaning that she's got something different this week and it's not the same thing as last week. I don't want her to get bored using the same thing. This week the client will again work at 65 to 70% of their maximum heart rate. This will again enable her body systems to still adapt due to the increase in demand for this exercise from the previous week's demand, but it'll also not push her to the point where she can't continue to work and exercise at that intensity. This is a good intensity that she's been working at consistently now, so I feel that just simply increasing the length of the session and the resistance would lead to the required or preferred adaptations for her. So it will allow her to adapt aerobically with her aerobic system, and it will also improve the health of her body system further, much like the previous weeks. I don't want to increase the zone she's working at. I'm content with it and feel that it's going to give her the right adjustments without having to increase the intensity she's working at in terms of heart rate. The adaptation that I have done, though, is that the session will now last 45 minutes. So it's a longer lasting session, meaning that her body is going to have to adapt to the increased fatigue of having to work for longer in those systems. So, for example, in her aerobic glycolysis, there'll be an increase in production of things needed in that, and there'll be an increase in production of hemoglobin for transportation of oxygen, and it'll allow the correct adaptations by increasing the time that she's working for. It will allow for progressive overload also through increasing the resistance to 9% of her body weight or equivalent. This is an increase on prior weeks and would ensure the client is having to adapt to the increased demand, like I previously mentioned, so that progress is made. If you're not increasing anything, the body isn't being pushed further and it won't have to adapt at all, but we want it to adapt. In addition to that, obviously, not only will her aerobic systems and body systems adapt, but she'll also be losing weight in the process, which is her long-term goal. The warm-up and cool-down is the same as previous weeks, so she will be cycling with no resistance, and she'll cycle at no higher than 60% of her maximum heart rate this time, and she'll dismount the bike and do the lunge, the open gait, close gait, and the quadriceps stretch, and the lunging latissimus dorsi stretch. The cool down would be the same, simply cycling at zero resistance until the heart rate returns to just a maximum of 80 beats per minute. Again, I haven't changed that at all through the 6-week course, the warm up and cool down, because I feel that it's effective and it's not long enough for her to become bored of it at all. This week, the warm up for this will be the zigzag warm up. So the zigzag format of cones, where she will jog to and touch each cone initially, and she'll sidestep through, then she will go backwards through, then she will lunge to each, then she'll do arm swings to each, then she'll open the gate to each, and then she'll close the gate to each. Again, this focuses on the main muscle group that she will use, so for example the hamstrings and quadriceps, but it also changes so that she's got something new from last week, preventing that tedium from having the same thing done each week. For the main session, she'll perform as many reps as possible in 50 seconds, then rest for 10 seconds. So again, I've increased the duration of how long she does each activity for. This increase will occur in order to push her and ensure her body adapts to the increase in the demand of exercise. Then she'll continue to the next move. After she's completed all 4 moves, she'll rest for 1 minute, so that's not changed, before she repeats the circuit. This time, however, she will complete 5 rounds or circuits in total. So she's having to work harder, a lot harder, meaning her body is going to have to adapt to that, and meaning there's more time of her burning that fat as well. So this week the session includes flutter kicks, mountain climbers, squat thrusts and jumping jacks. Because of the requirement to perform as many reps as possible, she'll be working at 80 to 90% of her maximum heart rate like those previous weeks. So again, the purpose of this is to burn fat, as the high intensity interval training burns fat as an energy store instead, which is why it helps her lose weight. And yeah, again, I've changed the activity to prevent tedium, and she's working in a system where I feel is the most efficient for her goal of losing weight. The cool down for this week is the same. Again, it's quite short, so I feel I don't need to change it. It's effective, and I feel she won't get bored of it as long as I'm changing the main session. So again, she'll jog through and back, jog through and backwards jog to the start. Then she'll sidestep, changing direction at each cone and return. Then she'll lunge at each cone and return. Then she'll open the gate up and close the gate down. And then she will lunge and twist up and jog back. So that's obviously a set of 8 cones there. Again, I feel that's effective. It focuses on all of the muscle groups that she'll be using, such as quadriceps, hamstrings, latissimus dorsi, so I feel it's an effective cool down that doesn't need to be changed. Lastly then, she will obviously, much like last week, she'll play squash on a Friday, and that'll be with a friend, exactly the same as last week, but I'm going to increase the minimum time she spends on it to 40 minutes. Again, increasing the time that she's working for is just gonna mean that she's having to work harder, and her body is going to fatigue. And with fatigue comes adaptations to try and prevent the effects of it. So, increasing the duration that she is doing squash for will enable those adaptations of the body, increasing her health, which before this 6-week training program was fairly poor, and squash can be quite high intensity as well. So overall, all of this exercise is going to help her long-term goal of losing weight. In addition to this, just lastly, a last note, throughout you can see that there's various rest days, such as Tuesday on the first week, Thursday, and Saturday is a rest day in the last week. Those rest days are simply because she hasn't adjusted. It's only 6 weeks, and she hasn't been doing exercise regularly for a very long time. So she needs those rest days to recover from the exercise that she is doing, so that her muscles can recover from perhaps the production of lactic acid, and so that her body has time to adapt. Otherwise, it's going to be fatigued and worn out, without chance to heal and recover. So I've left rest days for that purpose, to allow for recovery.